Okay, so this is a little unorthodox in that I am going to be talking over a video of a previous run. I did this first section of the run just a little bit ago. I tried to record this about 4 times, but because I kept talking during it, I would be missing things that were very important to get in a run. So I instead have to do post commentary, which is not something I'm particularly good at, so bear with me. I will try to remark on things that are important, things that are common mistakes, things that may soft lock your game if you're not careful, minor things that we encounter, maybe some optional strats for if something goes wrong so you can recover. What I won't be doing is talking about like every item or every single thing that you can see me do. If it's visible and obvious, I'm probably not going to comment on it unless I feel it's necessary. So with that, I'm going to disable my webcam and we're going to jump right in. Just because I don't want my face covering the screen here. So we always come in with this opening cutscene and story percent. It's unskippable, unfortunately, but it's not long. It's only a couple seconds. It's only a few seconds. Time starts right when you get that first phone call. One common thing to happen is to accidentally drop that crowbar, and if you do, just pick it back up. I have about a 50-50 success rate with making that jump. It's something you just have to kind of feel and practice. I've probably attempted that jump a good 1,500 times now. It's a very reset-heavy spot for me personally.
Good job, man.
So
this just might work. Go get some sleep, and we'll pick this up in the morning.
I just noticed I have 2 banners up, so I'll disable the second one.
There's a few things I need to tell you.
So, one thing I want to note about that right there, and I'm going to go back to it here real quick. If I can get there. So, you see how I'm going through the menu real quick while that Vinny thing is still up. That is... It's a minor time save, but it's a huge quality of life thing. However, you can end up soft-locking yourself if you're not careful. There are some quest triggers that are tied to closing some of these dialogue boxes, or at least that's what it seems like. And I have soft-locked myself by menuing too quickly through some of these menus. There's one particular instance where it happens to me a lot, and I'm going to point it out when we get there. You have to actually rebind keys in order to do this, and I believe the keys are called next page and previous page. I personally use 1 and 3. You can rebind them to whatever you're comfortable with.
Go hawk your loot at the pawn shop first. You'll need empty pawn.
Again, I'm menuing with W and A through that and hitting space to accept instead of using my mouse. If you're fast with your mouse, go for it with your mouse. I am not very dexterous, so I prefer using the keyboard. One thing to note right here when we come out of this loading screen is I'm hitting W and A to turn left as soon as possible. That way I'm already moving before the screen has come out of black. And then I'm coming down here to break this fence. Because it takes a minute for that fence to fall, as you can see I get stuck. I go and open the trunk. Now, with that window, it's very easy to accidentally get to climb inside. It's not the end of the world. If you climb inside, grab the TV, throw it out, climb out the window. You just have to be pretty precise at the end of this driving section. I tend to go to the right of the first mailbox, cut in and go left of the second. You used to be able to park in a different spot, but this is the only spot I found right now that works for me to not get caught. We used to back into a certain spot, but that seems to have been fixed. At least for me. I have not been able to get it to work again. So I'm going to replay that trick real quick, because it goes by very quickly. At 9 o'clock, the woman inside will get up to start walking towards the door. 9:01. And so you want to run at the door, and I don't really run at any specific spot, because it depends on where she's coming from. You need to run around her when she opens the door. And if you time it well, you can get around her without her realizing you're there, and get inside without having to have that key. Now you have to have that key to get in here without doing that trick. So if you fail the trick, you have to load your save. You have to load back to a checkpoint and try again. So it's another thing you have to practice, and we do that twice throughout the run. Once here, and then once in Richie R. The Richie R one is more dangerous because it wastes more time if you fail. So you want to practice here and get good at it. You'll put everything you grabbed the first time except your crowbar in that box. That's because we have to come in here a second time and grab items. If we don't, we run into this issue where we don't have enough XP later on. And this is one of the few times we will actually go inside a building twice. You want to look at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen where it shows you the items in your trunk to make sure both of the items went in your trunk there. There have been times where they'll go to random weird places. You want to go to the pawn shop here, and it's very important that you have 1,525 XP. If you don't, you didn't grab an item you're supposed to, and you won't have enough XP to get to level 10. So, the key factor here is that we do Appraisal 2, Lockpicking 3, Agility 2, and Backpack 2. That requires level 10, and we have 13 extra XP. That's it. There's not a whole lot of leeway there. So you have to pick up all those items. You might be able to miss one small item and be fine, but that's about all the leeway you're going to get, and even then you can still sometimes end up short. So you're going to sell the items you have currently in your inventory.
I see you got my screen. Go to Black Bag.
Now, I made a mistake here in the recording, and I'll point it out what I did to fix it when we get to the point that I fixed it. When you get back in the car, you should grab all of the pawnable items from your box in your car before going back to your home. I did not do that, but that is something that you should do. Another mistake that I very often make, and this is the mistake that I kept having to retry over because I would get down the road and I will realize I forgot to do this. You have to buy the lockpicks here. They are necessary for later missions, and if you're going for PBs and world records, if you wait and you don't do this here, by the time you get to a point where you need it and realize you forgot, your run is dead. You might be able to fix it if you made a lot of mistakes later on, but this is the number one run killer for me because I always forget to buy lockpicks. Thankfully, I did it here, and this is why I'm doing commentary in post instead of during. This is the point where you can end up soft locking. It was only up there for a second, but you have to close that dialogue before accepting these missions. If you don't, you can very easily soft lock your game and be unable to continue. The first 20 minutes of this game is probably the hardest to get through as far as resets, because there's a lot of things that you have to do. You gain a lot more leeway later on with ways to get into houses because you have access to more tools. So here you can drive around. You don't have to drive through the middle like I do. That is up to you. I would recommend practicing driving off the road, but you can drive on the road if you don't feel confident.
I left one in the garage.
So you're going to want to mark. Now, I come up here because I've found this to be safer. Because if this guy notices you, you can't get the box. So I come up here. I know Oceans peeks around the corner. I have found that to be too inconsistent for me in an already inconsistent section, so I didn't want another reset point. Now, I only buy one pick, so if I screw up a pick, I have to load a save. If you're not confident, buy extra picks, especially early on. You're going to have to pick up extra items, so you may have to go into a house a second time, somewhere down the road to get extra income. But it's better than having to reset all the time.
The Lombardis think their friend on Greenview needs a new window, but they think the one they got...
So in this mission, there is a mistake that happens. It's not so much something that I had control over, but it is something that tends to happen in runs. And it's, as far as I can tell, RNG. I haven't been able to figure out any way to cause it to happen as much as it just happens. So when we get inside, I'll point out kind of what's going wrong. And I actually have to take the backup strat here. So you'll get to see exactly what the backup strat is for if things go wrong in this house. So I come in, and we're supposed to grab the coffee machine. For some reason, she gets jammed in that corner, and you just can't grab it. So I come over here, I'm like, I'm going to try and grab it again. I come around, and at this point, the police are too close for me to go out the front door. Because normally, you'll go out the front door. If you can't go out the front door, you'll go out that window. If you can't go out the front window, you have to come out this side window and run around back. This takes a lot longer to complete the mission because you have to run a lot further because you're not able to just run out the front right off the edge of the map. But getting caught by the cops is even worse. So you run off the edge, go to the pawn shop. Now, remember how I told you to pick up your pawnables earlier? This is where I realize I didn't do it. I go to sell, I'm like, okay, I didn't pick it up. So this is where I get back in the car, I pick up everything, and I go and sell it. You should have 4 items left in your box, because those are things that the pawn guy will not buy. So then, we're off to the next mission. Most of these are going to send us back to the pawn shop from this point forward. There is one point before Richie R where we do have to go home in between missions. Now, going through that route, like I said, it's a little faster, but it's a gamble, because if you hit a pedestrian, it's over. You have to load a checkpoint. So any time that you would have saved is lost. Now, you might notice every time I'm trying to go in a door with this pick, I crouch. It's a lot harder for pedestrians to see you while you're crouched, especially if you've got your car in the way. So that's why I crouch, just in case a pedestrian's walking by, and I didn't notice them on the minimap. A lot of people didn't know that TV was there. That TV, it's kind of important to grab. Money becomes a little tight in this run, so getting that little bit of extra money, that extra XP, is always helpful. I'm not going to claim that every item I grab has to be grabbed. It probably doesn't. We could probably optimize the route a lot when it comes to exactly what items to grab. It's just the fact that when you wreck your car, you get money subtracted. When you get caught, it sets off time differentials. So it's generally better for each run to play it safe and have extra than to try and shave it down to exact amounts.
Hey, you know what else ain't broke? Is Greenview 104's windshield.
So, 104... Again, this is a situation where RNG happened, and I had to do a backup, sort of. It's a thing where if you don't do what I did, there's another strat you have to take that takes a lot longer to do, because the cops will get called. If you don't do what I did, the cops will get called. So if you look at the minimap, you can see somebody turning around to come down this sidewalk that I parked on. That's bad. And I kind of noticed when I came in here that that was going to happen. I was hoping that it wouldn't. But now I'm looking and I'm throwing stuff and I'm like, crap, I'm going to have to move my car. And I ended up getting a traffic jam there. And I was hoping that would go in. And I'm like, wait a minute. They're still there. I have to move my car. So, if I didn't move my car there, the cops would be called on me. And they will tow my car. And that's a fail. That's an immediate fail. Have to load from checkpoint. So, I had two choices there. I could either load from checkpoint right then and hope I got better RNG, or I could just move my car. Now, if you move your car in the road, you can run into the same problem with a car. A car coming and driving along, and you're blocking the road. One thing to note is my movement seems a little weird in some of these missions, with where I crouch, how often I'm running. A lot of that is just going by feel of where the pedestrians, the homeowners, usually are, and trying to avoid them hearing me. And trying to go as fast as possible without being detected. Because if you get detected, you can lose rating, and I want the XP.
Greenview 108 spends way too much time in front of the TV. Be a good neighbor and help.
So we're actually a little behind on time. Normally we would be going to this mission a little bit earlier than this. Earliest I've ever gotten there is like 12:30 p.m. Usually I'm getting here around 1:15, 1:30 p.m. Ultimately, it shouldn't be any big issue unless you really mess stuff up. As long as the only person inside the house is the young adult, you're fine. If the parents are home, you're gonna really struggle. And you're gonna want to sleep until probably noon, 1 o'clock. Just to be safe. And you can go down and sleep at the parking spot right there. I accidentally opened that upper drawer. Not a big deal because I happened to get the money. This is probably the most technical room in this house, because he's right below you, he has really good hearing, and so you have to be really careful about what you're opening and when, and how you're moving around. For example, I'm really careful about opening this, because if he detects me here, I have to go out the window, and the cops are already going to be on their way. One thing about that window I want to point out, if anybody is in front of the house, if any of those cones are like in front of the house, those visibility cones on the minimap, they will call the cops on you for coming out the window. So you do have to be very careful. I make a couple driving mistakes there, slows me down a little bit, but ultimately not that big a deal.
Greenview 107 don't like our protection plan.
You'll notice I'm just selling almost everything. I'm not worrying about Black Bay, anything like that. I've figured out that just selling stuff means I don't have to worry about the black bag going into the computer for it. I don't have to worry about sorting through and hanging on to specific items. And it means I can cut out loading screens by not having to go back to the house. This is a rather new addition, and I'm still trying to figure out a good spot to jump off from. But it saves a little bit of time. And we can come here and we can sleep till 8 a.m. Normally I used to drive down past 108. Oceans put me on to that shortcut. I noticed that they're still here, which is a little weird that they're still out in front of the house, the homeowners, but it didn't end up actually mattering. I only grabbed one of the wines. It's the one that's worth more money and XP. And I do that because that's all I'm going to have space to grab, because there's a lot better items to pick up inside. I try to pick up all the money that I can, because again, money can be really tight in this run. There are situations where I end up 200-300 over where I need to be, and that's it. That's all the leeway I have. So you'll notice I picked up an item I wasn't supposed to, so I'm going in here and dropping it now. That happens on occasion when you're mashing E a lot, and you accidentally go over something you didn't intend to pick up. This is another situation where you can very easily get detected coming out this window if you're not careful. Personally, I never pay any attention, and I just go out anyway in this window, because you're just running directly off the edge, and the police don't start anywhere near you. This is one of those situations where you go back home instead of the pawn shop.
Always remember to
And you want to make sure you buy those 3 skills. And that's lockpicking 4, electronics 1, and car 1. The reason that we do all of the stuff we did up to this point is so we can do the last 3 houses all at once.
In the shop.
So we're going to buy the 2 tools we need immediately. Sleep to the time that we're going to do the last set of missions. Which is 9 p.m. I accidentally did 8 p.m. at first. And then here's where I forgot to pick up the jewelry. Usually, I try to pick up the jewelry when I get in my car to go to 107. Because there's another piece of jewelry in here, and it's necessary most of the time to afford the last tool that we need for this section of the run. So you disassemble both pieces of jewelry, and then we're going to go over and we're going to do the safe. And I believe I messed this safe up, but I'm not 100% certain if it was this one or another one that I messed up. Must have been a different one. That just takes practice, and you should get decently good at it pretty quickly, because you do a lot of saves. A lot of safes? Saves? However you say it, you'd end up doing a lot of them when you're doing runs. So here's the key. You go back home. You don't want to go out to the house yet. You go back home because you need to do 2 things. You need to buy the car pick, and you need to do the rent-a-thug for 101 and 102. You'll notice we have $278. That's it. That is the excess that we have from buying all of the equipment we need to do this last set of missions. So keep that in mind. All of what we just did was so we could have $278 left and come do these last 3 missions. Because it cuts out multiple load screens. This is the one I messed up. because it was 80 and then 75. When they're super close like that, it can be really hard to recognize it because you're not expecting it. Make sure you grab the vase from in here. It's actually worth quite a bit. Now, one piece of advice for getting over your car is you want to be jumping downhill to get onto the roof. If you're trying to jump at it from downhill,
You know to wipe a mobile, right?
you're going to have a really hard time.
See that you do.
I bind Mark to both my middle mouse and to F, so I can be mashing F to mark things. Mark guards, mark cameras, all of that. That's personal preference. Again, I'm not super good with my mouse to begin with. My mouse hand is not very dexterous. So pushing the middle mouse button tends to move my mouse a lot. So for me, I bind it to the keyboard as well. Again, this is a situation where I'm only picking up one wine, because that's all I'm going to have space for. I've noticed one bug keeps popping up for me personally, that when I open up this second drawer, I can't pick up that camera, that phone, I mean. If that happens, I just go to a backup of the mouse, just for XP and money. Because I'm there and because I have the extra space. I didn't grab that money like I was supposed to. I believe I come back and grab it on the way out. If I don't, so be it. You should. You should grab it before you go into that room. I come in here, I grab another $150. Come in here and go left. There's another one in this drawer for $150. And then finish this up. Do not break the window. You will set off an alarm, and you need to be able to get the car after you do this mission. You will screw yourself if you try to break the window. It is not worth $400. Now, you'll notice I opened the gate, but I'm still jumping over. That is just a force of habit. I opened the gate out of a backup because I used to really suck at that jump. It's a really easy jump. I was just really bad at it. So I always opened the gate just in case. I still do out of habit. One thing to note is you can run downstairs, generally, and not be hurt. For some reason, running down a set of stairs just doesn't generate as much noise as running upstairs. So you're just going to grab the car, drive off, and you'll notice we're up to $3,800 now. We went from $278 to $3,800. This is going to take us back to our house. We're going to do a little bit of hacking.
It's time to check your hacking
You're going to buy
skills.
bag 3 here.
Make sure you buy the
And we
right
do this in
tools.
preparation for going to Richie. Buy the hacking tools. Come over here. We're only going to hack this one phone. This is the only phone we're going to hack throughout this run. I personally despise doing this minigame, but in Industrial we have to do it a
At
lot.
this rate, we'll be done
So
with you
I
in
hope you
no
enjoy
time.
it. I hope you
Now,
enjoy that.
Send me the tablet on BlackBerry.
Send off the tablet.
Now you're ready for the real deal.
Go to sleep.
You keep this up and you'll be...
And this is actually where I'm going to end this section. I will pick it up from this point next time. The one thing that I didn't record it, but the one thing that you do is you go to the pawn shop and sell everything you can. Before you go to the pawn shop, make sure you deposit in your safe house. Make sure you deposit all of your phones, any jewelry. I deposit the key. I deposit any tools I'm not going to use, but if you're just starting out, I'd recommend you hang on to them for backup strats, because backup strats tend to rely on different tools. So I will continue with Richie, hopefully sometime in the next week, but I'm not 100% certain. So I hope this was helpful. I hope I am able to quickly get out the other two sections. One thing to note, this is in the beta. So they may still make changes before this goes live. If there are, I'll try to put something in the description for anything in here that changes. If you find something different from the live game, please let me know so I can update this. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate any support that I've gotten. I know some of you have been really awesome. I was going through some pretty emotional stuff, some personal problems that kept me from being able to make videos or stream, and I really appreciate the people who reached out and gave me words of support and comments and constructive criticism on my videos. So for everyone, thank you so much.